So today, the topic of our exploration is our spiritual bank account. And it's an interesting concept, and one that I've kind of gone back and forth, because when I think about a bank account, I think about my wallet. And I think about the limitation of my checking account, because it only has in it what I put in it. And when I think about my spiritual bank account, I have a tendency to think about it the same way. That it only has in it what I put in it through study, through prayer, through spiritual practice, through changing my consciousness. And when I really sit with that, ain't a word of truth in it. Not a word. Because what was born in me, in you, was an infinite vault of possibility. I don't need to deposit a thing. What I need to do is withdraw. I need to make withdrawals on the infinite account that was placed in me at the moment of my creation. And the law of circulation teaches me that as I withdraw something from that account, the infinite immediately backfills it with even more. And I think that's what Ernest Holmes is talking about when he's talking about the infinite can only do for us what we allow it to do through us. And when we think about affluence being unrestricted flow rather than a large amount in our checking account, because that's the truth of the word, affluence literally means unrestricted flow. That means in order to unleash the flow of what was born in me, I need to be about the business of accessing and spending what's there as often as I can. And my human consciousness, raised on planet Earth, has a savings account for rainy days. And if I'm being really honest, I catch myself saving some of my magnificence for when I really need it. I see I'm not the only one. What would it be like if we stood unapologetically in the full magnitude of our magnificence every single breath? What would happen? I know my life would change. I'm pretty sure my checking account would change. But see, I have it backwards. That when my checking account changes, then I'll change. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. The Our Father that we just listened to, on earth as it is in heaven. As long as my consciousness is limited, my earth experience will be limited. When I remove those limitations, then I have access to what has always been there, the infinite. Those that like to play with the idea of the quantum field, that's our bank account. Literally, the quantum field, which is a provable field of infinite possibility, is our bank account. And we use this much of it. I can't even get a space small enough to show how much of it we really use. We could put the amount of consciousness that we actually access on the head of a pin and have a whole lot of space left over. That's how much is available to us. And yet, we unconsciously surrender our birthright. And then, maybe it's just me, we go about the business of blaming various elements of society for our limitation. Well, I was raised poor. What do you expect? I expect that nothing. What I expect is that hopefully we tap in to the truth of what's available to us and we stop living in the past. Now, I'm a guy who grew up cutting cardboard and putting it in my shoes to walk to school. So I speak about something I know about. And it's not easy to shake that. Because when we grow up in that kind of abject physical poverty at the earthly level, it becomes our identity. Just who we are. And then it gets reinforced. Well, you're an Ellis, by God, that's just how it is. So now my last name defines my experience in life. Until someone issues an invitation and shows me a path to something greater than I could ever imagine. Things happen in my life today that I can't explain. I cannot explain. I've tried. I have sat down and created spreadsheets and researched my bank account because I'm a Capricorn and we have this insatiable need to prove crap. And if you're a Capricorn, just own it. It's just who we are. Don't make us bad, it just makes us who we are. And I cannot explain how I went through ministerial school and have no debt. I can't explain it. I can't even recreate it on paper. And I even went as far as to recheck with Holmes Institute to make sure they didn't make a mistake and I don't actually owe them some money. And they're like, go away. You're done. Quit annoying us. You know, they said it lovingly, but they meant it. We don't have time for this phone call. You have your stuff. You're complete. Go be a minister. That's about my consciousness. That even when we see it in form, there's still something operating at that level that goes, really? Really? Am I sure? How many times does life show up in magnificence for you, and instead of, yes, more, please, you go, nah, that's for somebody else. I don't really get to have that. We do it. And the invitation today is to stop it. Just quit it. And what to do instead? You step into your greatness. You step out of your comfort zone. Because see, the problem with my comfort zone is the only thing I get to experience in my comfort zone is what I'm used to. There's no growth in that. None. In order to grow, I have to get out of my comfort zone. And remember, we've talked about this. Don't buy into the lie that the first step is the hardest. Not true. First step just spins you in circles. It's the second step that moves you out of your comfort zone. Now I'm in a different place. It's the second step. The first step is absolutely necessary. It's that decision. It's that point of decision that Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman is talking about. It moves us into compulsion. But if we stop at the level of compulsion and we don't allow ourselves to be moved to move that second foot, we experience divine discontent that turns into resentment, that turns into depression, that turns into death. And it's all avoidable. We don't have to do that. We get to say, look at everything in my bank account. And the only thing that is required is that you have the consciousness of your desires, of your heart. And if there are blocks, deal with the blocks. Own them. Don't memorialize them. Don't put them on a shelf in your house. But you have to own them, because we cannot heal what we refuse to reveal. And so many of us deny our glory, deny our greatness, because we don't like the wallpaper, and instead of taking time to steam it off, we just paint over it. And then it starts bleeding through and we paint over it again. And then it bleeds through and we get some heavy-duty primer and we paint over it again. It's always going to bleed through because you can't know what you don't know. You can't. You can't unknow it. You can lie to me, and you can try to lie to you, but you know you're lying. So there isn't enough paint to cover it up. It's that place in relationships, and we've all had it, where that little voice says, if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't love me. That voice only shows up when we know we haven't shown up to the relationship. See, an imposter has shown up. Part of us has shown up. But I have concern that if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me, because I know you haven't met me. You've met the me that I've decided you might like. And the problem comes when that is reciprocated. Now I'm stuck. Because now, if I change, will you still like me? That's the essence of this life. It is constant change. If we're continuously drawing on our bank of the infinite, you will change. And guess what? Some people will dislike your change. They will. Because see, when I step out of my comfort zone, everybody who shares my comfort zone, all of a sudden their comfort zone has changed, because they're like, where'd Rafe go? So now they're a little uncomfortable. And they will either find someone to replace the role you played, or they will get a bigger comfort zone. And that is none of your business. That's their business. Your business is to stop staying stuck because of what they feel, and even because of what you feel. Dare to be great. Dare to be the magnificence that you came here to be, for crying out loud. None of us are spring chickens. How long are we going to wait? How long? So one of the stories that I was looking at for today on stepping into the abundance and waiting, a pastor was sharing with his congregation that they needed to generate some more money in order to survive. And so he put forth a deal. He said, okay, here's the thing. Today I'm going to ask you to really reach into your hearts first and then into your wallets, because we need some extra cash flow. And whoever gives the most today gets to pick the next 3 hymns. And then he passed the offering plate. And when the offering came up to the front, he noticed there was a $1,000 bill right on the top. He about came out of his skin. He's like, wow. And so in his zeal, he's like, I want to really appreciate whoever gave this. A tiny, frail, elderly woman in the back of the room raised her hand. And he asked her to come forward so he could really appreciate her. And so everybody's watching her as she slowly makes her way to the front. And he thanks her, and the congregation thanks her. And then he says, now, you get to pick the next 3 hymns. And her eyes brightened up. She got a little spark. She looked out in the congregation. She looked again. She started focusing. And the 3 most attractive men in the room, she said, I'll take him, and him. How long are we going to wait? How long? It just excites me that that story could even be true. So, each of us gets to pick. And I want to end this part of my talk with a quote from Living the Science of Mind, on page 33. Just so you know, I didn't make this stuff up. The divine has already made the initial deposit, and a big one for everyone who is ever born into this world, because the divine has given itself to us. It has imparted its own life, and in a mysterious way which is beyond our comprehension, has endowed us with the capacity to love. If the divine is love, and if each one of us has, as we must have, immediate access to the love of the divine, then we earn the ability to draw on the bank of life in such degree as we become loving. By communing with the infinite through spiritual practice, we earn the ability to draw on this bank of infinite love. Let's take this into prayer. What I know with absolute certainty, because I feel it in every fiber of my being. I feel it breathing itself as my life. I feel it's dreaming my dreams. That as I access it, I am changed into a greater expression of it. It being all there is. It being neither male nor female. It being infinite energy. It having no name, because any name would limit it. And in this moment, I choose to call it spirit, recognizing that language is a function that it gave us to communicate. Holy, holy, holy is its name. It is all that I am. It is all that each of us is. Having been created out of it, by it, to be it. That is the infinite nature of our bank. And so I speak my word knowing that the divine is speaking as me to itself. Realizing that accessing the brilliance of me is closer than my own breath. That it is that point of decision that says yes to being greater than I ever imagined this human could be. To standing in that greatness unapologetically, no matter what. For standing in that brilliance and allowing the divine to shine through me, no matter who is blinded by it, no matter who is uncomfortable. To stand in the possibility, in the probability, in the realization of being love. Knowing that as I be love, everything else takes care of itself. And I no longer focus on doing love. I focus solely on being love. And I allow that to move my actions by the compulsion of love. This is my decision this day, every day. Grateful. So incredibly, unimaginably grateful to feel my entire being lifted up simply by speaking the truth, knowing that it's already done. Holy wow. So grateful. So grateful to be loved so completely, so magnificently, that no part of me is willing to deny that love for another breath. And what I speak of me, I speak of all life, because that is the truth of oneness. And so I invite you, if any of this resonates with you, that you join me as we anchor this by saying, and so it is.